usual, I thought I would just quickly jump on live and share some of my notes for uh, an upcoming YouTube video that I'm gonna film in a minute, but I'm not gonna do it right now because I'm a little bit chesty, I've got a little tickle in my throat, and I want to make sure that I'm feeling good. And this is going to be one of my longer videos that I'm going to post on my YouTube, and it's going to answer the questions that I get asked over and over again. And that usually is uh, if we are in some sort of simulated reality, why doesn't God step in and fix everything? And question number two is there a way to escape? So I'm going to try and answer these questions, but they're quite complicated. So I've made loads of notes, and tomorrow I'm going to try and film it as a YouTube video so that I can just pin it. And whenever someone asks me that question, I can just refer them to that video. But I thought I'd go through my notes with you all before, and yeah, just so that I know what I'm going to say when I'm filming tomorrow. So number one is, are we in some sort of simulation? The answer is who knows, but my best guess is that we are in some sort of simulation, and a lot of the ancient philosophers of the past thought that we were in simulation, and one of the most notable groups of people who claimed that were called the Gnostics, and I think that's why those videos do so well on my channel. It's because they sort of tap into that idea of us being in some sort of simulation. So if you don't know who the Gnostics were, they were a group of ancient mystics and philosophers, and they believed that we live in a dualistic universe. So everything is not just fine and rosy. They believed that there was extreme light and extreme darkness, and together that made our existence. And they believed that Earth was a significant place because it's somewhere where we can experience both extremes. And they believed that many of us were sort of forced to experience extreme darkness because it serves the people in power. So at the time, they condemned the church, and that was not necessarily because they were against religion, but because the church were the authority of the times, and they didn't have a government or anything like that. The church and the state, I guess, was still one, but they weren't attacking religion, they were attacking authority. And if you read some of their more specific gospels talking about this, they called the authorities, or the people who rule over the masses, they call them archons. And there is a really interesting text called the hypostasis of the archons, and that's one of the most popular videos on my channel, and it talks about how there are demonic rulers who control the earth from the shadows, and to sort of change the energy of the earth. Step one is to become aware that these demons exist. And so let's move to number 2. And if you're watching this on TikTok, I'm probably going to get banned from TikTok any second. That's why I don't really post too much on there, because my content is always getting flagged, but I'm a lot more consistent over on YouTube. But thanks for all of the likes so far, and thanks for the people who are following. I always see your comments over on TikTok. So I can't really see my notes here on this app, but basically the text describes a group of low-level entities who rule over this world, and they answer to an entity that they call the chief ruler, and that was the name that they had for the devil, and they called him Yaldabaoth, and the demiurge, and so on. And they believe that he was a byproduct of misdirected wisdom. So outside of this world, everything is energy. So we have, physical bodies or avatars in this world, but in other worlds, we all exist as energy, basically. And the energy of wisdom is really closely connected to the energy of ignorance. But that's quite hard to explain. So the Gnostics came up with these stories and these sort of deities to try and explain what they meant. And what basically happens, or what I believe happens, is that we exist in the heavens, but we have a desire to come down and experience physicality. And it can go one or two ways. So you can be born into a lifetime where you're really lucky, and you incarnate into a prosperous family and have a great life, or it can go the other way where we incarnate into ignorance and we have distress in life. And that all depends on our, I don't want to say our karma or stuff like it. I think it depends on on luck, really. And if we are unlucky and we don't get born into a good situation, then our lives are filled with suffering. And the Gnostics believed that the root of all suffering was this entity, Yaldabaoth, who represented ignorance, and he causes humans on Earth to be ignorant and to make unwise decisions, which leads to a lot of suffering on Earth. And that's basically the journey that spirit takes as it incarnates down into matter. But the good news is that we don't have to carry on incarnated over and over again into matter, like a lot of the Eastern religions and New Age people encourage us to. We can overcome this physical world if we want to, and return back to God in heaven. And the way that we do that is by going inside and seeking enlightenment for ourselves. Okay, but that is quite a difficult process. So the question I get asked all of the time is, why does why would a supreme loving being like God, or whatever you want to call him or it, allow all of this suffering to happen? And the Gnostic argument was that we are God incarnate, but we have forgotten that because we unintentionally give all of our energy to corruption, and that's because we're forced to live in a capitalist system, and a system that expects us to give up all of our energy and time for pretty much nothing in return. And that causes a cycle of frustration, and it causes situations where we're always at each other's throats and we're arguing amongst each other instead of questioning the way that our society is structured and the way that it's ran. So that was their, explanation as to why, God would let this happen. It's because we're all sort of really encouraged to stay unconscious through, the matrix or whatever you want to label it as. And, we make those decisions, unfortunately, for ourselves. And they also argued that if we can start to make different decisions for ourselves, then that will emanate out, I guess, exponentially and affect the world. And the best way that I sort of understand this is, I think, okay, I'm a millennial. Okay, so if someone in my generation was brought up in dysfunction and a bad home environment, okay, so then I would say to myself, as a millennial, our parents are sort of like elder Gen X, boomer people, and those people are sort of like one or two generations away from maybe slavery, if you're of black or Caribbean heritage and so on, or maybe the world wars if you're a Caucasian person. So those are parents, grandparents and so on are probably traumatized by war and slavery and all of this stuff that's still happening today. They're still going around to different countries bombing innocent people. Okay, so then if you say, okay, well, why does war and slavery and corruption and things like that happen? Why can't these world rulers just leave everyone alone to live in peace? And if you look into the Gnostic texts and their arguments, they would say that it's because they are possessed by these demons, these archons. Okay, and those archons are connected to the devil, and that's why there's a lot of stuff going on in the media. P. Diddy and all of these rappers abusing young children, and the wars that everyone's getting absolutely sick of. And it's all, when you strip it back, it's all possession of the devil. So it happens on a large scale, and it can also, unfortunately, happen in our homes and in our personal relationships. And that's why I find spirituality so interesting, because we talk about the Sumerians and the Gnostics and all of these people, but all of these stories are just different ways of us getting to know ourselves. And if we know ourselves, then we can change the world. So that's basically what I've said in not so many words in my notes here. So I talk about demons being fallen angels and how it relates to the Mesopotamians, and how that's similar to the Great Flood. And I've just filmed a video for my Patreons and my members about how Adam and Eve can also be seen as a metaphor for human consciousness, and how it all sort of subconsciously relates back to us. Over in I'll answer all of your questions. I see them popping up. I usually answer them at the end. Otherwise, I'll get completely sidetracked, and there's always like a pressure when I'm doing these lives, so I'm trying to not lose my brain train of thought. So then I'm gonna talk about the left brain world, and that's how when we're born, we're usually not given much of a choice to explore certain things. We usually have to believe what our families believe, and not a lot of people give their child the time or the space to express their individuality. And usually because parents have been through their own struggles, and they pass that on to their child. And it's also extremely difficult to raise children. So by the time a child is 3 or 4 years old, they can't wait to put them into school. And I think, as you all know, when we go through the school system, it just basically teaches us to become robots and work for a company. And if we do have that, creative spark, that's not usually nurtured, and label kids with all sorts of disorders because they don't want to sit down in behind a desk all day long. And either those kids grow up and get into trouble, or go the other way and they become some sort of entrepreneur. But that's extremely difficult, and basically have to teach ourselves to do that. And most people don't do that because that is more trouble than I don't want to say more trouble than it's worth, but that's a lot of effort, and people have responsibilities and stuff. So it's a lot easier for us to just get some 9-to-5 job that we don't really care about, and fall in line. And I believe that is one of the biggest reasons as to why a lot of people grow up miserable and with so many regrets. It's because everyone is forced to follow the school system and do things that they're not 100% passionate about, because we need to make money. So there's also that financial matrix. Okay, so I'm going to talk all about that in depth. Then I've got my notes on the reincarnation trap, which is my most popular video. I tried to post another video about that on TikTok, and I basically got blocked. But yeah, basically the reincarnation trap is a criticism of the New Age and the Eastern religions that tell us that we need to live 8,000 lifetimes to become enlightened. And from different sort of like NDE experiences. And, if we put all of that information together, that is basically a scam that is designed by demons on a really high spiritual level to encourage us to keep on recycling back, because it involves us giving up our energy to other people who, or not other people, other entities that have not got our best interests at heart. And I've got a whole playlist about that on YouTube if you haven't seen it. And the reason that is so popular is because it sort of taps into that dynamic between the toxic person and the people pleaser, or the narcissist and the empath, is what people are calling it on socials now. And I think that's a dynamic that we have all been involved in, whether we are on the scale of consciousness, they call it the victim abuser trap. So if we think about our personal relationships, there's probably been times where we have been quite toxic to other people, and then we might have other relationships where we are sort of the victim of that toxicity. And what happens in that dynamic is that the victim will try and pull away, and the narcissistic person, who is usually getting some sort of energy exchange from the people pleaser, will try and reel that person back in. And that's something that I've sort of been through over the past year or two, and it's something that's kind of showed up a lot in my life, but most obviously in a friendship group that I've had for a long time, a number of years. And I just realized that these people they're not supportive of me. Then sort of like they're not on the same path as me, but they're kind of using me for their own toxic reasons. And I was just like, okay, I can't be around these people. But they almost wouldn't take no for an answer, even though these people clearly didn't like me. When I started pulling back and doing my own thing online and finding new friends and so on and so on, they were really trying to pull me back into that friendship. And it's a tough dynamic to break. But I just had to really put my foot down and block these people, and stand up for myself. And that's something that I haven't really done, and it feels good. And I feel like these stories about reincarnation and all of this grand stuff is trying to sort of nudge us to have more confidence in ourselves, in our real lives, and so on and so on. And I feel like if we can stand up for ourselves here, in this physical life, where things are extremely difficult, then when the soul goes to other places, it will have no problem sort of making an informed decision, rather than being sucked into reincarnating in this place. So I know it sounds super abstract, but I'm going to try and put it together in this YouTube video in a way that's more practical and more grounded, so that I don't just sound like a crazy person talking about the Matrix all day long. And what else? I'm also going to talk about Buddhism. I've just done a video on my YouTube channel about Buddhism, and I like the way that they explain reincarnation as not just sort of a physical thing. They emphasize that it's a psychological thing, and I like how they say there's a place called the realm of the gods in the wheel of life, the wheel of samsara in Buddhism, and they say the way that the souls uh, leave the realm of the gods is because their lives are so perfect and so carefree that they forget how tough suffering is. And I'm sure you guys have seen it loads of times. A person who has an amazing life and comes from a great background, he gets into a relationship or a friendship with people who are don't have that sort of sense of morality, and people who are no good for them, and that's because there's this pull that attracts opposites, especially in this world, opposites attract, and it's because we're trying to learn from each other. But as we grow spiritually, we don't need someone who is our complete polar opposite for us to learn and evolve. We can sort of draw from our experiences and draw from other people's experiences so that we don't have to suffer from ourselves if we don't want to. And I think that's it. And I'm going to end it by just reinforcing the fact that we're not this body. This body is just it's like a house for our souls, and just how Wi-Fi can sort of travel in and out of an iPad or a phone or whatever. Consciousness can travel in and out of bodies and stuff, and we need to sort of, I don't want to say be less attached, because that's sort of just understand that there is life outside of this body, and we are worthy of having a good existence while we're here. And if that's not the case, then we need to identify the beliefs that we might subconsciously have that are causing our own suffering, and identify whether or not they're helpful to us or not, and make that decision to let it go. So I've got all of that in my notes there. If you want to see it, you can go on my YouTube and screenshot it, and I'll get that video up on YouTube in the next couple of days. And my video about Adam and Eve is going to be up on Patreon probably later tonight. So I thought I'll just share that with you and double check that I know what I'm talking about before I actually post a video. Blessings. Thank you, KP, for the positive message over on YouTube. If any of you got any questions, type them below. I'll have a look on TikTok and I'll quickly answer them if you've got any. I don't take live requests. I need to learn how to turn that off. Thank you for all the likes on TikTok. I really appreciate it. I need to find a way to be a little bit more interactive on TikTok that doesn't get me banned. So maybe I'll try and go live a little bit more often. Hey CC, thank you for the likes. And it's just another random live. So if you've got hey Ascension Consciousness, I know you're always here supporting. I really appreciate you. You put a request. Hold on. Let me see if. Can you send through another request? Jacob said, my Christian friend told me that I'm going to hell. Oh, thank you for the roses as well. I get told that every day, that I'm going to hell, and I get a lot of hate on my videos, but I get a lot more love, so I don't pay attention to that. They've clearly got something that they need to work through themselves. Ascension, if you want to send through a request to go live on TikTok. If not, I'm gonna leave it there, guys, and I will have a new video up on YouTube really soon. But thank you so much. Thank you to people on YouTube who are watching and who are always supporting. I'm starting to get to know all of your faces now, and it's good to see you here all the time. So I'm gonna leave it there. So thank you for the likes, and I will speak to you all